Well, we've got another edition of Answering Pilate. Dustin, good to be here.
Good to be back again.
Yeah, and today we're going to be talking about the gospel and culture. I mean, it's sort of a general theme anyway that we deal with, but I think Christians have been having this kind of discussion for years and years for sure, and one of the things that comes to mind just initially and briefly, you got some folk who say the world is like a sinking ship. Why polish the brass on a sinking ship? And others are saying, well, no, we got a lot of brass to polish for lots of reasons. And of course, those who would say, why polish the brass on a sinking ship? It's not they don't care about anything. It's just that they see the gospel mandate as relating to salvation, the conversion of men, women, boys, and girls to Christ. We certainly believe we've got a great commission and a gospel mandate related to that. But at the same time, we believe the gospel is a little bit bigger than that. It's not just about salvation. It's about something bigger. And so that's why we want to talk about Christ and culture, the gospel and culture, however you want to, name it.
Sure. Yeah. I think some Christians kind of take the view of, the sinking ship as you described it. Everything that we see around us, it's all going to burn, so it's all going to be destroyed. So what's the point of trying to make it better or make it more beautiful or anything like that? Because it's all just going to burn.
Yeah.
And while we do know that judgment comes, judgment is coming by Christ himself, we also believe that he's redeeming, and as you've said, not just redeeming people, but he's redeeming all of creation.
Yeah.
And so we believe that it's important to engage in the culture and in making and shaping the culture because it's going to put his gospel on display.
Yeah, that's right. And to your point, we believe that when the Lord comes again, there's going to be a renovation of all things, a renewal of all things.
Right.
But at the same time, I think there are a lot of things in this life, however it pans out, whatever it looks like, that will remain in eternity, in the final state. Again, I don't know exactly what all that looks like, but I think we have scripture that indicates something to that effect. And what we do here and now certainly matters. We're laying up treasure in heaven, to say the least. So those are the kinds of things that we could point to. But I'm reminded in this discussion of H. Richard Niebuhr.
Okay.
I think if you're, when you go to seminary, you're going to have to read Niebuhr. More than one Niebuhr, really. And again, we're not on the same page exactly theologically, but he did write, I think it's like 1951, if I'm not mistaken, maybe even before, but somewhere in there. He talked about, I think I used that term a moment ago, Christ and culture. And again, how should Christians react to culture, deal with culture? And he gave like 5 categories in this particular book. We're not going to be talking about his book per se, but just as an on-ramp, if I can put it that way. But here are the 5 categories, and then we'll tip our hand, as it were. I think we've already tipped it in a sense.
So, yes.
But yeah, he talks about Christ against culture.
Okay.
And those are, basically that model is culture. You said it. Fundamentally, that's all going to burn up, but also culture, because of the fall, it's fundamentally corrupt. It's fundamentally sinful. So to be completely loyal to Christ, we don't want to have anything to do with cultural institutions. You could sort of put the Amish in that category, for example. I don't want to be too, loosely. We'll say loosely.
Kind of a separatist mindset.
Yeah, there you go. And a lot of fundamental Baptists would be like that in large measure. They're very different from the Amish in a lot of other ways. So Christ against culture. The second would be Christ of culture. This is sort of an accommodation model.
Okay.
Essentially, it views the best aspects of human cultures fundamentally in harmony with Christ. This is kind of the route that 19th century liberals, theological liberals, went down the road, just trying to, merge the church and culture, that kind of thing. So anyway, no real tension between Christian identity and participating fully in civilization. We think there is a tension. We want to participate in a lot of things, and a lot of things we can't participate in, but a lot of things we should participate in. But anyway, That was the Christ of culture. Thirdly, Christ above culture. And this is what Niebuhr refers to as a synthesis model, famously championed by Thomas Aquinas. It holds that human culture is inherently good, but it's incomplete on its own. And so secular culture can guide humans part of the way toward truth. But, of course, we have to be perfected by supernatural grace. And so I think that just goes too far in some of those areas. But nevertheless, Christ above culture. Number 4, we're going to get through these a little bit quicker. I'm so sorry. Christ and culture in paradox, sort of a dualist model associated with Luther, Martin Luther, not like Luther Vandross or somebody like that. But anyway, I don't know why I said that. Anyway, trying to keep my finger on the pulse of the culture, but that would have been.
You don't
even know who that is, do you?
I do.
Oh, you do.
Well, not sure how many of our viewers are gonna.
Well, if we're identifying with Gen Z, probably.
I'm not sure how many of our Gen Z viewers are gonna know who Luther Vandross is.
That's for sure. But anyway, so anyhow, views the Christian as a citizen of two distinct worlds, which we would agree with that: the kingdom of God and the worldly kingdom, but they are locked in permanent, tense conflict. And again, I think that's pushing the other side of that too far, So
this would be like the view of the secular versus the sacred.
Yes. There you go. And we'll address that. And I'll let you address that because you brought it up, and it's really important. And then the last, Christ, the transformer of culture, which is where Niebuhr himself leaned, and I think we would lean there as well. A transformationalist and a conversionist model, basically saying culture has been corrupted by sin, and then his words, but fundamentally redeemable. And again, how far do you push that? But we're saying culture is not unimportant. Culture should be, we Christians want to create culture. If you know what culture is, it's a product of values and morals and beliefs and language and, the shared things. And we talk all the time about influencing culture. Kingdomizing culture is a word we would use, gospelizing culture. And so in that sense, we want culture and society to align with the kingdom of God. So when you use that language and you understand it the way we understand it, I think that's where we would be. But nevertheless, just thought I'd throw that out in case, somebody's looking to do a little more research or why are we talking about this? This is something that folk have been talking about forever.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the culture, that's a broad, very all-inclusive term, but it basically is where we live. It's where we live. It's when we live. And so it's a very important question for us to talk about, because as Christians, we want to know, how do we live as followers of Christ, as citizens of his kingdom? Where we are and when we are.
That's it.
So we need to talk about how do we do that in a biblical and Christ honoring way.
Yeah, absolutely. And your language there reminded me of Francis Schaeffer. How now shall we live? And he would be one of those that, again, I would recommend highly. If you're going to read between Niebuhr and Schaeffer, read Francis Schaeffer. You're going to be blessed. Not that you might not be blessed by Niebuhr, but just can't recommend Schaeffer highly enough. Also, a lot of our folk might be familiar with Chuck Colson, and he borrowed from that title, and he wrote a little book along similar lines, How Then Shall We Live, and he was just borrowing on that title. But anyway, we don't get too academic around here, so sorry.
It's okay.
But I think that, again, as we segue into just some dynamics of our own or categories of our own, we are called to, as you've said, engage with culture, and we're called to influence culture. And of course, we can't just say that and expect people to believe it.
Right.
Yeah. And so I think foundationally, we're going to come to Genesis chapter 1. And before I get to a particular verse, though, I want to say just, listen, we're created in the image of God. And one of the things that means is that we are to reflect the reality of God. And, God put us here. He put Adam and Eve in a garden. But after that, of course, the fall and all that, he still had a mandate for them. We're coming to that. Yeah, it had to do, well, we might as well get to it. Genesis 1:28. What did he call them to do? He said, be fruitful and multiply. He said, subdue the earth. He said, take dominion over the earth. So there is a whole lot implied in that one verse right there, a couple of verses together. A lot of folk refer to that as the cultural mandate. Hello, cultural mandate.
Sure.
And that's legit. I usually refer to it as the dominion mandate, but it's the same thing. Cultivating the earth. I think it means building cities. I think it means digging resources out of the ground to heat our homes. I think it means things like electricity and cars and jet planes and all the rest.
Yeah. I wanted to throw something out, and I don't think I'm getting too far afield here, but if it's off key, feel free to
go right ahead.
Call me on it. But the word culture, another word for the command that God gave to Adam to tend the garden would be to cultivate it.
Yes.
There's that same root word there, cultivate, culture. It's to work the ground and help things to grow.
Yep.
Scientifically, a culture is a cross section of an environment that you can grow organisms in. And so a culture is where things grow. And so we believe that the Genesis 1:28 mandate is for us to cause things to grow in the earth, not just physically in the ground, but in the world at large. And so, I thought that was interesting. When I was thinking about the word culture, scientifically, a culture, you put it under a microscope and you see these all living organisms. A culture is where something grows.
Yes.
And so we want that. So that's why it's a cultural mandate. We're wanting to make things grow.
Yeah.
We want to make good things grow.
That's right.
That glorify Him.
That's right. And I don't know that I've ever thought of it that way, but you're dead on it. I mean, and cultivate. I'm glad you brought that word out. So, yeah, that's exactly right. So, so we're reflecting the reality of God. We're imaging Him forth by cultivating, causing things to grow, good things. And you said that. One of the things that, and again, we mention people that we read. It doesn't mean we agree with them on every single thing. It doesn't mean I disagree with them. I'm just, I just throw those things out. But Andy Crouch talks about culture making. He's one among many. And he talks about, let's just say in our own culture right now, if there are certain cultural goods, like goods and services. So if there are certain cultural goods that from a Christian perspective are good, we would want to work to preserve those cultural goods.
Yes.
If there are certain cultural goods, and this would be an oxymoron, we could call them cultural bads, but if there were certain cultural goods that are not good, then we would want to work to eliminate those. But as Christians who are also called, as you were just explaining, to cultivate, we want to create new cultural goods. We want to engage in culture making because after all, who knows better what good culture should look like than Christians? Now, that's not to say that all Christians understand this, not to say that I'm the best Christian. I'm the one who should, put these things on the chalkboard and say, here's what we're going to do.
Right.
But I say that because Christians actually believe and cherish God's word. And God's word is what helps us to determine what culture should look like in general terms.
And not to bog us down one more time, but again, because we're talking about all of this starting in the Garden of Eden.
Yes.
Who planted the garden? God planted the garden, right? But then He gave Adam a job. He gave him work to do, and his work was to work that garden and to bring it about. And then after Adam and Eve sinned, after the fall, what was part of the curse? That thorns and thistles would grow up.
Yeah.
And so then his work would be toil, but the good things that God planted would still be growing. But then now these thorns and thistles that are part of the curse are growing.
Yeah.
And so again, I think there's a physical and a spiritual dynamic at work there.
Yes.
So God has planted these good things. He's called us to cultivate it and to make it grow in the midst of the thorns and the thistles of evil, of sin that are growing up beside it. I think it's a reflection of what we were told in the Garden of Eden.
I think you're right. It's well, what's that meme going around? Adam, you had one job.
Yeah,
but anyway, he wanted God's job.
Right.
But anyway, sometimes what you're talking about, I refer to it as pushing back the fall.
Right.
Yeah. Landscaping. Pushing back those thorns and thistles. Getting that old red clay here in the part of the world where we live. Trying to, get grass to grow is not always easy, but we do. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. So, yeah. So obviously, biblical principles behind all of these things. And so I guess a broad way to say it is, it seems clear to me that God has given, we know that he's given us Genesis 1:28, and our understanding, if we're right, and I think we are, so it's safe to say that culture itself, if you know what it is a God-given mandate, a God-given mandate. So if you say that, then even though you've got the fall, culture itself, and see, there's a lot of bad culture, but culture itself is not bad. I would say culture at worst is benign, but in a sense, just the fact of culture, that we're to create culture, I would really say it's inherently good, because God's told us to cultivate not only the ground, but when he says be fruitful and multiply, that's part of that mandate. It's not just take dominion over the earth, take dominion over the animals, be fruitful and multiply. Well, that implies families, and from families, communities and civilizations, et cetera.
Right.
So that's where I'm getting that from.
Yeah.
So anyway, he wants us to fill the earth, subdue the earth. And again, that's why subdue the earth. You're talking about pushing back the thorns and the thistles, part of it. I mentioned earlier cultivating oil out of the ground. Again, as human beings who have intelligence, by virtue of God's creating us in his image, it's only part of it, but nevertheless, we're intelligent. And we add, we stand on the past, and we learn and we learn and we learn and we learn. And so if the Lord gives us another, 1,000, 10,000 years, I have no doubt that we're going to have cultivated energy, whether resources or whether we invent something to help make those resources more efficient. And we've done both, right?
Sure.
So cars, engines are way more efficient now than they were. Gasoline engines are way more efficient than they were when I was a kid.
The very invention of the gasoline engine versus a coal-fired train engine.
Yeah.
That was innovation.
That's right.
That was, it was a good thing.
Yeah.
Because that's progress, and that's harnessing more of the Earth's resources as we learn about them, as we discover more about the planet that he's put us on.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But yeah, and we do continually see, we see it right now, that there are more advances, and some of them are good. Some of them aren't going to pan out.
Right. That's right.
And that's been throughout history.
Yeah.
We've come up with ideas and we've tried them out, and some work, some don't. The ones that don't get scrapped by the wayside.
Yeah.
But the ones that are good and that produce a net good for the society, for the culture, persist.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we're going to continue to see us make improvements in lots of different areas.
Yeah, I think you're right, 100%. Like you say, it's been happening, and guess where the other part of where I was going with that. I always say to folks, well, oil's good. I mean, it's good. Is it perfect? No, we're in a fallen world. Right now, I don't study this a whole lot, but I think if we could ever, let me put it this way. You said it. Gasoline engines are an advancement over coal-fired engines. You're throwing the wood or the coal in there.
Right.
On that train, you see these old movies.
Yeah.
And then gasoline engines are more efficient than they were even from my day, let alone the Henry Ford days.
Right. Yeah. The gas mileage of a Model T versus
Right.
a brand new car today.
Yeah, exactly. But, if electric, forget the political dynamic. If electric cars become way more efficient,
Right.
they're not right now. They don't think they go as far. Don't have as much power. The batteries are horrible for the environment.
Right,
If you really want to be true to your political leanings,
Yeah.
like I'm a conservative, I'm against the environment, right? No, I'm not against the environment. We should take care of the environment.
Right. Yeah. And that was what I was going to say. We, when we're talking about harvesting the resources of the earth, we do want to do that in a responsible way.
100%.
And it's not from an environmentalist or political agenda
Or Gaia
it's
worship.
Right. It's out of stewardship.
Yes.
Because in the dominion mandate that we were given in Genesis, we were gifted this planet. And God's given it to us, the entire planet, as a resource. But stewardship means we want to responsibly use it and take care of it and do it in a way that is renewable and reusable and sustainable. We believe in all those things.
Sure.
But again, some things, and not to get off on a political rant, but some things that are currently being marketed as sustainable or renewable, like you said, for example, a lot of these electric cars, the batteries that are in them, they work great on the front end for your gas mileage. They don't use as much fuel. They don't use as much energy, but they do wear down. They do not last forever. When they go bad, they have to be disposed of. And then when we're disposing of them, like you said, there's a lot of very dangerous chemicals and other things that are involved in the manufacture of these things that are going to end up having a negative effect on our environment. So and again, that's part of the learning process. And so, as we've talked about before, when we talked about economics, the market can bear out the things that are going to be a net good versus it's not worth the other costs that may be involved.
Right. And I think, again, and I repeat in a lot, even though I try to say it in a different way, but I think we'll discover more and better resources as time goes on. I think because God's put these brains in our heads, we're going to even figure out how to make the resources we have more efficient.
Right.
That's kind of what I'm talking about. But the third thing, the caveat I'd put on it is there's never anything that's going to be perfect this side of the final state.
Right.
We're still in a fallen world. I mean, you can power a lot more stuff, to put it in the vernacular, with nuclear energy than you can with gasoline. But there are trade-offs, right? And there again, I think a lot of that is, what we've witnessed with the atomic bomb and Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island and all that. So again, that's part of the reason, as you well know, some of these issues become political. And they play on the emotions of folks sometimes, but sometimes, it's based on what the lobbying groups say. But as you said, I have a tendency to get too far afield. But,
it's okay.
Anyway, we want to talk about fulfilling that dominion mandate by virtue of being created in the image of God, and that has to do with those things. So, and I'm glad you said what you said. We want to, just with reference to the environment, we want to be responsible stewards.
Yes.
We're part of the environmental thing is really earth worship, Gaia worship, right? And we could do a whole broadcast on that. So, we worship the true and living God, the God of the Bible, but he also tells us to be good stewards of the earth for very different reasons than a lot of environmentalists are, but nevertheless, some of it's political, some of it's spiritual.
Yeah, because again, as we said, the earth itself is a gift from God and all the resources that are found in it. And so just like with any gift that we get from God, we don't want to make the gift an idol and worship the gift over the giver. So we always want to keep in perspective that we worship God for all the things he's given to us, but we don't worship the things he's given to us.
That's right. 100%. And let's kind of bring it down to the individual now just a little bit, because we've been talking about, I'm no nuclear physicist. I'm no jet plane builder. I don't even know what you call it, engineer, but anyway, of some sort. Anyway, aviation engineer. I have no idea.
Me neither.
Yeah. So anyhow, but we're talking about everybody being involved in culture making.
Yes.
All Christians especially, through their individual gifts,
Right.
talents, spheres of influence, things that they're interested in. Don't you believe, and again, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I believe that not only does God give each one of us different gifts and talent, and by gifts, I'm talking about spiritual gifts, the manifestation of the Spirit, but talents, can I make a distinction real quick? Some people say, I've got the gift of baseball and I use that as my ministry because I evangelize people through that medium. Well, no, you have a talent for baseball and you have evangelism as a spiritual gift. Now, you put them together, powerful.
Right.
Do it. But just let's understand the terminology. So anyway, so gifts and talents. I forgot where I was going with. Interests. We don't all have the same interests.
Right.
And sometimes we try to say, well, Christians, all Christians ought to be doing this. Well, not necessarily. Christians in general ought to be doing this, but there are other Christians who are doing that. And Christians in general ought to be doing that. You understand what?
Yeah, because all of these different things can be a part of culture.
Yeah.
And I think, too, another thing that can happen with Christians when we get it a little askew is we tend to look at certain gifts or talents as more spiritual, and therefore they have a greater value spiritually from a Christian sense, in ministry, and so we glorify those, even maybe not even knowingly, but if someone's a preacher or whatever it may be, versus you talk about this a lot. We've talked about this a lot. Just whatever vocation, whatever interest or thing you've been called into, if you're a good Christian mailman, that's still ministry. If you're a good Christian truck driver, if you're a good Christian husband or wife, if you're a good Christian father, mother, that's part of making culture. And engaging with the culture, because in fact, that's where it all starts, is in the home. We would both affirm that the family is the cornerstone of a culture. And so that's where it's got to start. So if we're Christian, Christ-honoring husbands and wives, fathers and mothers, raising up children who fear the Lord, then right there we are influencing the culture. Because if more and more Christians do that, more and more Christian homes are being raised up, that's going to have an effect on the culture at large.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do a little thought experiment. We didn't plan on this. You mentioned the mailman. We'll just use the mailman. And again, let's dial it back a few years, because we have email now and the phone in our hands.
Well,
stuff
somebody
like
has to deliver all those political flyers.
Yes. Excuse me. Very thankful for that. But go back before the email. So 1990s. You were around in the 90s, weren't you?
I was around, yes.
So what cultural goods did a mailman provide for us? I mean, people send letters. That's good, because I can write somebody who lives in California if I live all the way over here on the East Coast. Can't walk.
Right.
And I might not be able to afford to fly out there. Some people can. I mean, but there you go. There's another cultural good, right? I mean, Adam and Eve had to walk everywhere. Maybe he could ride a horse. I don't know. But anyway.
Yeah. I'm not sure when horses were domesticated.
Yeah, I'm not. You'd have to domesticate him first, because that fall.
I wouldn't go hop on a wild horse.
No, me neither. I've been thrown from a horse, so yeah. So anyway, but you get where we're going with that. He brings important information. Sometimes he brings a tax refund, whatever the case may be.
Or he delivers the bill that you're sending the check for. Both ways. Brings you the bill. And
if you're not aware of that, then you're going to get in trouble. So again, they provide a great cultural good. And I think from a Christian worldview, and this is where we're, at least I'm thinking, and we talked about this before, expand our minds that Can you just say you didn't elaborate a little bit? You brought up the secular and the sacred. There's really no distinction, right?
Right.
I mean, we often make that distinction.
Yeah, biblically speaking, there's not. The Bible doesn't lay out a distinction of certain things being secular, certain things being sacred, from the standpoint of things that you can do or whatever. But there is a perception among many believers that there are certain things that fall under this secular realm.
Yep.
And basically there's not really anything redeemable about them in one sense, and it's not really anything we should be involved in.
Right.
And then we use it as a labor. For example, you know this. A lot of people that know me that might be watching know this. I do music. I lead the worship at our church.
Yeah.
And I write songs and all of this. But there's always this distinction between a secular music and Christian music, which Christian being used as a synonym for sacred there.
Yeah.
So that, there's a distinction, and obviously there is a huge distinction in themes and messages that are being portrayed by someone who is not saved, who doesn't know the Lord, and who is not writing or performing music out of a motivation to glorify Him versus someone who is. So there's definitely a difference in messages, but music itself is not a sacred or secular thing.
Right.
Music is, again, a gift, a tool that the Lord's given to us that as Christians we should be taking and using and molding and cultivating to create things that can bring honor to His name, and glory to Him, and put His nature, His image on display.
That's right. So, continuing or going back to that thought experiment, and I'll put you on the spot because again we didn't talk about this.
Yeah.
Let's talk about baseball for a minute because I know you're a former baseball player, and anyway. Is baseball, see, because what you're implying about those who make that distinction in the secular say, well, baseball, that's just nothing. It's going to burn up one day. And a lot of Christians say, yeah, we shouldn't even be going to the baseball game, wasting your time, need to be out there doing evangelism. Now, listen, I believe in evangelism.
Wait, so are you saying that Field of Dreams is not real? They play baseball in heaven?
Well, I'm not saying that yet.
Okay.
Hang on.
Okay.
I know they play football in the backyard, right?
Yeah, that's what Audio Adrenaline said.
I'm kidding. Yeah. But here's where I'm going with that, though. But some wouldn't go, quite so far away, shouldn't go to the ball game, but they view it as you were implying or indicating, well, it's not really sacred and it's just something we do, but it's going to burn up one day. It's not that important. Well, okay, look, the salvation of a soul is pretty important. Right? I mean, we agree with that, but let's just think bigger. Is baseball nothing, or is it a gift from God? I think it's a gift from God.
Right.
And I think it's a gift from God for a lot of reasons. Those who participate, they're able, and again, this is the thought experiment. I think they're able to learn things like sportsmanship and teamwork and community. It's no replacement for the fellowship we have in Christ. Right. But these are cultural goods. And what about the people who go to the baseball game? Listen, I'm not like, baseball's not necessarily my very favorite sport, just in terms of playing or even watching, unless it's the playoffs or something. But there's not much that's, in sports that's more enjoyable than going to a baseball game live. And that's why the songs Take Me Out to the Ball Game and all that stuff. You're at the park. You got all the people cheering. You got the popcorn. You got the kids running around doing what they're doing. And it's just, I don't know. It's just it provides some rest and respite. I mean, I could go on. I don't want to belabor this too much. We have a limited amount of time. But I'm saying it's a cultural good. And I think that Christians need to see it that way. And again, if you have the opportunity to share the gospel with somebody on your way to the ballpark, do that and a soul is saved, yeah, that's there's a sense in which nothing compares to that, right?
Right.
The soul is saved, God is glorified. But at the same time, you can't just say baseball doesn't mean anything. It does mean something.
Yeah.
It's a cultural good, and in a way puts God's glory and beauty, when looked at rightly, on display. Not everybody sees it.
When looked at rightly.
When looked at, yeah.
Yeah, because the more that we try to view things through a gospel lens, we can see multiple ways that multiple things can put God's glory on display.
Yeah.
You talked about the sportsmanship and learning fairness and those kinds of things. Being outside, enjoying the sunshine and the fresh air, God's creation. Seeing in any sport, seeing these athletic abilities that are God-given talents, and acknowledging it for what it is. Again, it's all in how we view it. If we view it in the right way through a gospel lens, then all of those things can be good, and we can give God glory for it. But again, just like when we talked about earth worship, anything that the Lord has given us as a gift can become an idol. So can sports become an idol? Very easily. Sure. Lots of things, anything that's a gift can become an idol.
Yes.
But it's all in how we view it.
Yeah.
And the more that we view it through a gospel lens, then that's how we shape the culture.
Yes.
Is that these things are good. We can do these things, and we can do them with the right mindset that puts God's glory on display. And not that it's glorifying man, not glorifying the athletes that are participating or anything like that, but it's putting God's glory on display in a multitude of ways. And so that goes back to the view of everything being worship.
Yes.
All that we do, if we do it for the glory of God, if we view it for the glory of God, then it can be an act of worship. And again, maybe that's different than corporate worship when we're coming together as a body. But everything that we do should be, the Bible tells us, an act of worship.
Yeah.
So even participating in, whether it's playing or observing a baseball game, can be an act of worship. If viewed correctly.
Yeah. No, I think that's it. And if you're a Christian, we're told to renew our minds, right? We renew our minds by the scriptures, put off sinful things that we do and think and say, replace those with godly things to think about, do, and say, sinful habit patterns versus godly habit patterns. But we put on through the renewing of our mind. And the more our minds are renewed, the more we're thinking God's thoughts after him, the more we're thinking about God in the everyday. Paul says something interesting, and I think it's in Romans 8. He says, those who mind the things of the flesh will die. And the idea is that your heart is set on the things of the flesh. Your heart is bent toward that. And the heart and the mind in the New Testament are essentially the same thing. He says, but those who mind the things of the Spirit will live. And again, I think I'm paraphrasing there. But he says, on the one hand, we struggle with sin, going back to Romans 7, the thing that I don't want to do, I do. That which I want to do, I don't do. Who shall deliver me from the body of this death? He's lamenting tremendously over this battle between the flesh and the spirit that he talks about in Galatians 6, for example. Maybe chapter 5, I can't remember. Anyway, so he says, who will deliver me from the body of this death? Thanks be to God through Jesus Christ our Lord. There is therefore, and this is the gospel, there is therefore now no condemnation for those in Christ Jesus. And then he goes on to say, for those who walk after the Spirit and not after the flesh. And of course, it doesn't mean that we're perfect. He means that we're influenced by the Spirit, and the inner man, the inner person that I am, delights in God and delights in God's law. And I want to glorify God in all that I do. And when I sin, I grieve over it and I repent. and I strive to do better. Not because I'm afraid God's going to throw me into hell, but because I love God and I delight in his law now. The old person that I was died, and I've been raised to walk in newness of life. That takes us back to Romans 6. All this stuff goes together.
Right.
Okay. Where was I going with that? What was I thinking? Well, when you renew your mind, you're not only thinking more and more about the things of God, thinking more and more about how I can live for the glory of God. Well, can I enjoy a baseball game, just to go back, for the glory of God? Yes. I can thank God for the Saturday afternoon. I can thank God for the sunshine. When I see that Babe Ruth point to the fence and then he does it. I mean, I wasn't around when Babe Ruth was around, but that's a very famous.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, right. And I know you're not a Yankee fan, so no. How about Smoltz or what was the other one? John Smoltz, the great pitcher, and the other pitchers back when you were
Greg Maddux.
Maddux, yes, thank you. Yeah, I mean, to see these guys, man, throw the heat. I don't even know if I could throw a ball 30 miles an hour. I have no idea. They're throwing it 100 miles an hour, whatever they're doing. But anyway, I was thinking about that, renewing your mind. I think, and again, everybody's different. Every Christian is different, and the gospel saves all of us, but there are things God deals with in different people, and there are things he does in different people. One of the things he does for me when I go to that game and I see a Smoltz or a Maddux or whoever it might be, somebody lay out for that touchdown catch, and he does something that I could never do. Well, like you said, I'm not worshiping that man. I do think, whoa, did you see that? That's incredible. But my mind automatically goes, Lord, thank you for letting me see that, and thank you for the ability to give that guy to do it, that we could. And then I go like, if humans can do that, what can God do? I'm just saying.
Right.
It takes my mind back to the Lord. It really does. I'm not saying every touchdown or every slam dunk, but a lot, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because like you just said, if a human can do that, because a lot of these humans that we see do these amazing things on the athletic fields they're susceptible to injury.
Yeah.
And in the blink of an eye, that ability could be taken away from them.
Right.
But again, we acknowledge that God, infinite power, infinite ability, and doesn't get injured. Doesn't lose his ability
right
at any point. And that's not talking about whether or not God can catch a touchdown pass. Right. I'm not going down that road. That would be ridiculous. But again, seeing the things that when we see God gift another human with the ability to do something that's amazing compared to me sitting on the couch with my potato chips watching it,
Right.
Again, it's like, wow, there's so much more that's capable and ability there. Well, how much more so, like you said, is God in his power and his ability. And again, it's putting his glory, his nature, his image on display. And why do we talk about wanting to put his image? Why do we talk about wanting to image forth him? Well, again, it comes back to the gospel, as we've said, because and kind of going back to what we talked about in our previous episode about who God is. It's his sovereign power, it's his majesty, it's his glory, it's his holiness, it's his beauty. God himself, not just because he says so, but because it's who he is the most beautiful thing in the universe. He encompasses all that is beautiful and good and pure and wonderful and all of the superlatives we could think of to describe. And so that God who has chosen to condescend to fallen image bearers such as us and redeem us, again, the thorns and the thistles are in our heart, right? But God's redeemed that in us and is in the constant process of redeeming that in us through our sanctification. So that's the gospel. he's taken that death away from us. He's fighting back those thorns and thistles. So again, he's given us this command because that puts on display what he's doing in our own hearts.
Yeah.
So that's why we want to fight back the thorns and thistles in our culture.
Yeah.
And make things that are beautiful. You know, we talked about art.
Yep.
And music and
Yep.
and design. You know, big beautiful buildings.
Yeah.
You know, pristine cities.
Yeah.
You know, making things clean. That kind of all of that is all about putting beauty on display, putting creativity on display, putting all of these things on display, because it reflects a God who is infinitely all of these things. And it reminds us that infinitely superlative in every way God has redeemed us. And so if we can be a part of redeeming the culture, then again, that's a picture of what he's done spiritually in our own hearts.
Yeah. Yeah. I am really glad you touched on that, because a lot of times we think about truth all the time, and we should, and justice, but we don't often, or at least Christians in general, think about beauty. But that's what you just said. I'm not going to elaborate because you said it perfectly. And I took us off track with the thought experiment, but I think it was fruitful for me anyway. I hope it's fruitful for others. Could we come back and talk more about culture? Because we'll never be exhaustive.
Sure.
But I think some other things we can say, and I wouldn't mind expanding on the beauty thing, because I don't think that's a topic that a lot of, some Christians think about in terms of, you know, crown molding. Like you said, big, beautiful buildings, crown molding glorifies God. But I do think people might have a question. Well, okay, you're going to spend all this money on yourself? Whoa.
Right.
That goes back to what you said. No. We're going to worship God. And so,
don't make an idol out of it.
Don't make an idol out of it, but it's still a good thing because God's a God of beauty. So we need to talk more about that. Is all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
So let's do that next time, because I think we're out of time for today. Is that good?
All right. Sounds good.
All right. See you next time on Answering Pilate.
The Answering Pilate podcast is a ministry of Randall House Church in Greer, South Carolina. You can learn more at www.randallhousegear.com/church. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at Randall House Church. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.